Hello, welcome to yet another destroyer inspection in World of Warships. And we are looking at a ship I despise with every fiber of my being. I have, through sheer force of will, played almost 300 games in the Bingbong, the Elbonk, the Elbing, the God's gift to gaming, one of the best ships in the entire video game, a true delight to play, a privilege to captain, if you will. Um, in all seriousness, there are zero lies being told. It's one of my favorite ships in the game. It's fucking amazing. I absolutely love it. It is in fact the better Ragnar. You can quote me on this. It is the better Ragnar. It does not get copium Ragnar uh, radar, right? And it does not get the extra 10,000 HP that the Ragnar gets with its its three heals. You get about 10,000 extra HP in the Ragnar. But you get a smoke, which is decent. You get decent torps, which is decent. But you get 38 millimeter pen on the HE, and you get these guns that are railgun velocity Des Moines shells, basically. Here you have a very cool dynamic. That guy just hit like a whole salvo on my midsection, did 0 damage. Hit me again, 0 damage. Hit me again, almost 0 damage. Why is he doing 0 damage? Because you have that 25 millimeter plate. It's the biggest plate in the game of the armored destroyers like Kaba, Ragnar, Elbing. The most amount of ship real estate is taken up on the Elbing proportionally by that 25 millimeter armored plate. So not only can you, as we see, Citadel this Sejong at like a 15-degree angle if we get the shells right and a bit of pen chance RNG, he just like basically does 0 damage to us unless he shoots AP. And here, the base DPM in the Elbing is undeniably, it is lower than Ragnar, right? You have about 2/3 the base HE DPM. But you pen 38. Not even 32, you pen 38. And what is the most common nation in the game for battleships? Typically, most lobbies, it is US battleships. There's a Bane and a Montana on the enemy team. So 2 of the 5 enemy battleships, we pen basically 100% of the ship that is not turrets, right? This Conqueror, we pen everywhere, right? The fire chance, very, very decent. Elbing HE only is already a great ship. Elbing on launch was already a great ship. Truly an example of Wargaming's decision to balance on server statistics. Someone commented this on my Gibraltar video. I think they're absolutely 100% correct. The reason why Wargaming refuses to buff dog ship ships like Gibraltar, and they keep buffing good ships like Jinan, Elbing, Rigolo, Alvaro de Bazan, is solely the server statistics. If a ship is underperforming on the server, they think it needs to be buffed. Elbing, the second I got my hands on it, became instantly one of my most played destroyers. It's an incredibly good combination of fun, versatile, strong, and unique. That was release Elbing. They then decided to give it a speed boost, and as an Elbing enjoyer, I started to salivate. Then they introduced the legendary mod for the Elbing. Let's talk about the Elbing ledge mod. Is it the best ledge mod in the entire game? It is really up there. It is really up there with the newest crop of ledge mods. I would say Elbing, Venezia, and I'm forgetting one here. Good and Lu. Probably have the 3 best ledge mods in the game right now. The kind of ledge mods that, number 1, you're astonished you even enjoyed the ship before you got your hands on the ledge mod. 2, if a super ship is available, like in the case of Venezia with Piemonte, you would actually rather play Venezia most of the time than the super ship version. And 3, it's just a pure buff. The Elbing ledge mod is such a crazy pure buff. It's a pure buff in multiple ways. It's truly baffling as fuck game design to me, because basically the heart and soul of Elbing's ledge mod, the heart and soul of it is it turns your speed boost into a 20% speed boost. Okay, I'm already sold. Shut up and take my money. You see here, we're 5 minutes into the game. We have the Lucian's buff, so now we're down to a 6-second reload. So we have like a Nevsky reload on like basically better than Nevsky guns. And while we only have 3/4 as many guns as the Nevsky, obviously since we have laser accurate dispersion, we'd like basically never miss a shell, right? Angled at 20 degrees Conqueror, AP volley for 6K, right? It's disgusting. I've mentioned many times, mostly in my cruiser and some of my destroyer videos, I am not a damage farmer player. It is not a playstyle I excel. HE for 3,500. I mean, it is not a playstyle I excel in. It's not a playstyle I gravitate towards. I farm damage in the Elbing by fucking accident, man. God, I love this ship. It's just one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. It's the best, like, is this the best light cruiser in the game? Come on, let's be honest for a second here. It's up there, man. It's a light cruiser without a citadel that actually gets, like, god tier damage output. And you don't have to go through fires, right? A lot of these light cruisers masquerading as a destroyer, like Kaba, like Ragnar, they go through a solid 40%, 30-40% of their damage almost exclusively through fires, no matter what they're farming. And then Elbing is just like the broadside, one of the most consistent broadside smashing ships in the entire game. I mean, you get broadside cruisers and battleships that you pen, and it's probably more consistent damage output than even a Des Moines has because of the accuracy. I mean, the accuracy, like you see here, is just disgusting. Same thing with Ragnar, right? Okay. It's not unique. Ragnar has the same dispersion that Elbing does. But Ragnar does not get 38 millimeters of pen. Ragnar does not get Des Moines penetration angle AP with basically Des Moines AP pen. Like, any flat broadside cruiser with an exposed citadel, you basically citadel at max range in the Elbing. Light cruisers, you citadel at max range at, like, basically any angle. Like, G-Nan at 16 kilometers at a 45-degree angle, you're going to citadel him. He's dead. It's crazy. You see here, I'm able to target the bow, like, and because I pen it, right? Like, Ragnar, you can't do this unless you're, like, a clinically insane, candidate for a psych ward who takes IFHE on Ragnar. Is that even a thing? I've never seen somebody do that, right? So you can target bows on something like Ragnar for fires, but you can't do it for pens. And Elbing, you can do it for both. And I mean, I don't think there's anything to complain about the fire chance. We're 8 minutes into this game and I have 8 fires. Almost 200,000 damage in 8 minutes. Like, the damage farm on the Elbing is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. But back to the legendary mod. I kind of got sidetracked because my cock just started getting so rock hard for this feat of German engineering that is the Elbing. But so your speed boost, which if you build for it, lasts just about 3 minutes, and it's a 20% speed boost. So you go about, I mean, you see here we've been actively maneuvering, but you pretty much constantly stay in that like 42 to 45 knot region of speed. And then you get 3 smokes base. We've already got Witherer 9 minutes into this game, right? And this guy's going to go broadside, and now the damage becomes like demonic, like truly demonic the second anything goes broadside. And because you have such high AP pen, like broadside GKs, you can pen them at like medium range, right? You can't do this in other destroyers, even ones that have good armor piercing ammo. Again, sidetrack, back to legendary mod. Legendary mod would be like an A tier, totally worth it. You should probably get it ledge mod if all it did was remove your reload in slot 6 and give you the speed boost. It's worth it. That's a great ledge mod already. Then it gives you 6% DPM. So like you give up half of your reload speed to go 20% when you have a speed boost up instead of 8%. Okay, like, I mean, I'm already sold. Then it doubles your turret traverse time, aka it cuts your turret traverse time in half. So for a 6% hit to raw DPM, you go 12% faster with your speed boost up, and your turrets turn like fucking daring turrets. The Shima is gaming. I just was truly astonished that he was there. It's baffling. It's truly baffling game design. The Elbing ledge mod is one of the weirdest ledge mods in the game because, like, you literally give up objectively nothing to run it. and it's in the slot you would want the effect in. It's so bananas. Like, is the worst player in the history of World of Warships the resident Elbing main at World of Warships Balance Design Team HQ? And he's like, I know what this thing needs for me to get a 50 win rate in it. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. This boat is like legitimately overtuned. Do I want to say the Elbing is straight up overpowered? No, you gotta have hands. It's big. It's easy to hit. Yes, it has armor. It doesn't get a heal. The torps are slow. Decent. Very decent. Good stealth on the torps, 1.2 kilometers. They're very slow, but they have very good 13.5 kilometer range. Very decent, like 16.5k damage, I want to say. Yeah, and so the reaction time is 9 seconds, which isn't great, but considering they're 50 knot torps, obviously decent. So we are just over halfway through this game on almost 260,000 damage. Uh, Dominating, just shitting on the enemy team. You shit on people in the Elbing. It's one of the most suffering ships in the game, no matter what you're in. Because, like, let's say you're in a destroyer and you're, like, randomly CV spotted at 12 kilometers. This thing just, like, beams 6 shells of salvo on you. The guns are so fast. The shells are so fucking fast on the Elbing. Even, like, they just put everything else in the dust. They really, truly do. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to minimize the mod. There we go. A little bit nicer to look at. It's the whole package, man. Like, legitimately speaking, so I'm going to make a weird comparison here. Here's my comparison. Ragnar is Radar Minotaur. And Ragnar is Radar Minotaur if you took the torps away. And Elbing is Smoke Minotaur with the torps. And you're going to probably instantly know what I mean by that if you play a lot of Minotaur. In some games, aka bad destroyers who are isolated, the Ragnar hard bullies and has gigantic game impact instantly. In every other kind of game, the Elbing's just a better ship. I truly believe it. It's just a better ship than Ragnar. Like, I don't know if the community is just, like, sleeping. I feel like Elbing players are, like, the Elbing is a meme ship. Like, there's so many funny memes around playing the Elbing, but it's unironically an incredibly good boat. The guns are ridiculous. The armor plating covers such a high proportion. We'll look at that in Armor Viewer at the end of the video, as always. But the amount of the shootable parts of the ship that are covered by this 25mm plate, unlike Ragnar, that's almost 50%, or Kava, that's like 35-40%, I would say a solid like 60% of the parts of Elbing you can hit are covered by this armor. Now, here we have a very unfortunate situation, because this is an Annapolis. If this was a Des Moines at 42 degrees to Elbing, what would I do? I would not touch my smoke screen. I would fucking destroy him. I mean, even at this angle, like, this would be a dead Des Moines player. This guy would have died for this to me. But unfortunately, the Annapolis has like a 3-pixel thick citadel. It's like it's the most silly, goofy citadel in the entire game. But he does go flat broadside to my Shikishima, and which is pretty fortunate. He just got Halsey buff. The game's over. 280k. Game is over. Yeah. Me, the Shiki, and the Cassard basically did a 3-man wrecking train at sea. We slaughtered the entire enemy team. And then the Annapolis and a couple of other of his teammates slaughtered our entire team at A. And for the sole reason that our team griefed the B cap all game long, they're up on points. There's not enough time to change the fact, and we lose. It's one of those teams. These teams happen, right? We're always looking at back-to-back replays. I don't necessarily care if it's a win or a loss. Wins are more fun, I guess. But the damage farming of the Elbing, I mean, you see the kind of HP I've stayed at. And it's because you're so fast. Like, again, the Ragnar has kind of the same top speed as Elbing with the speed boost up. They're similar in speed. But the Ragnar speed boost lasts less than half as long as the Elbing speed boost, and you have to take Superintendent to get the same amount that Elbing gets base, right? Detailed Report, brutalize the Montana, brutalize the Sejong, the Conqueror, the Conqueror. I mean, this is a unicorn target for something like Elbing. any destroyer with 32 mil pen and decent DPM, decent fire starting, crazy. But the problem is like, you know, you might say, well, Elbing only has good DPM with the AP. Fact check true, right? The DPM is not that great without the AP. Effective DPM, pretty good with 38 pen, but fair. You really only start pumping out damage when you get to use AP. But here's the thing. If you're in this Conqueror and you're nose into an Elbing and he's doing 3,500 damage every 6 seconds to you and starting a fire every third salvo, like that's not livable, right? And you have a 75% heal in the Conch for pen damage. So like, is he a bad player to try to run away, right? And you saw like when he turned out and tried to run away, all of a sudden we just like dominated him with the AP, right? And you look at the damage, HE 33k, 32k fires, 42k, but look at the difference in shell count, right? You see that 83 HE shells got us 33 plus 33, right? 66, and then the AP for 2/3 as many hits got us 42,000. Um, and that is just the strength. Like we're averaging 1,000 damage a hit, right? I mean, it's just kind of gross, man. It's kind of just a gross amount of damage output, and this is coming from a guy who's like not a big damage farmer. Like I said, the Elbing effortlessly farms damage. Effortlessly. If you're a good damage farmer, you're gonna like average crazy high damage in this ship. If you play Elbing and only focus on farming damage, like I don't see any reason if you're good at farming damage you can't average like 150k plus in Elbing. It just farms damage that effortlessly. But then like it has the ability to push in. Yes, it doesn't have Ragnar's radar, and Ragnar's HE DPM. But the thing is, we've talked about this in every video, right? I'm ad nauseum. Players in World of Warships don't have game knowledge and they don't have discipline. And the thing with the Elbing shells, is they do require a fairly high arming threshold, right? A flat broadside destroyer of basically any kind, you will never pen. One, the fuse time is like closer to cruiser battleship fuse time. That's something worth talking about. This is also, by the way, though, why you can actually citadel even some cruisers at closer range that don't have exposed citadels. Because other destroyers with good AP that have fast fuse have a hard time citadeling spaced armored ships, even if they technically have the pen. Elbing has a 25 thousandths of a second fuse arming time, but then it has a 25 mil arming threshold. So destroyers can't be, we looked at the Z and how the Z needs barely any angle to get an arm on most DDs. Elbing does require quite a lot of angling. I would say like 45 degrees. Now, because you have these 30 to 22 degree ricochet angles, any destroyer at like 25 degrees, you just like 7-8k chunk them with AP, right? And even the HE, the DPM's not great, but you do hit like 3-4k salvos. It's okay. But you are trying to use that AP even on destroyers. But destroyers in World of Warships don't have discipline, right? They go 45 degrees to Elbing. They give you unicorn angles. Same thing with like a ship like San Martin. They just don't know better or don't pay attention, and they let you chunk them. So this is damage farming Elbing. Effortless. That was not even a long game, right? We got capped out on points. That was very, very easily. If our team did not grief the central cap, that was easily a win. That was easily a 320 to 350k LB game, right? And we're still on like 2/3 HP. Like the boat is so good, man. Oh my god, the boat is so good. Play the Elbing, dude. Play the Elbing, man. Ooh, had to take a quick shower there. I was starting to get a little damp, a little sweaty. Um, okay, so we just saw how very, very effectively Elbing can effortlessly farm battleships, shit on cruisers, do okay against destroyers. But being let down by a really dog shit team. Yeah, spoiler alert, the team's not any better this game. But this is a nice replay to show. Two back-to-back replays. We saw the farm potential. And towards the end of this replay, we're going to get to see how like tanky this 25 mil plate on the Elbing can become, and what I was talking about with its ability to citadel cruisers with even spaced armor. So real quick, we can look at the matchmaker. Kestia and Condi are gigantic giga problems. Accurate burst fire mode pens us everywhere. Horrific, absolutely fucking horrific. The DDs are whatever. We'll shit on these DDs. Also, Elbing, like Druid, um, Elbing and Druid are kind of like a super hard counter to Kaba, like a super hard counter to Kaba players. That's not going to really come up in this replay specifically, but that is something to know, because super fast shells they both have, and then they both pen like ignore Kaba's gimmick, right, which is the armor plating. Um, and that's something interesting about Elbing that we can talk about. Is there are other armored cruisers that count that don't really, or armored destroyers. Like Kaba is very fairly well armored, but Kaba does not counter armored destroyers. Ragnar is armored and counters itself and Elbing as far as armored destroyers go, right? Because it's 30 mil pen. Um, and then Elbing is armored and counters them all, right? Elbing, HE and AP counters Ragnar. And here you see like how very consistently you will get the Lucian's heal. And so it's kind of like guaranteed, as long as you're leading the charge early game in Elbing, it's pretty much guaranteed you're gonna proc the Lucian's. It's about 3,000 HP that it gives you. I think it is, right? It's a 3,000 HP heal, and it takes 10 seconds to give it to you. So a lot of times, like you saw 2 games back to back, and this is fairly consistent. You get spotted, you shoot, they shoot. The Lucian's heal procs because the ship shot back at you, and as the first salvos of the game hit you, you actually get a little bit of HP back, right? It's not, accommodating, it's not compensating for the HP you've lost, but it is a nice little thing that you get. I do think the Lucian's 3k HP heal, you get it on Elbing and Z like a lot more than most people pretend that you get it on. Or maybe they're outing themselves as passive players who camp and spawn. Thoughts, theories. These are ridiculous, nonsensical torps. I was like, what if, right? What if this Montana player pushed in? Imagine, right? Yeah, the torps, you spam them out because you have a good reload. I talked about this in the Grozavoy video, but when you have hybrids or gunboats like Elbing, Alvaro, Regalo, even Z52, all of these ships that are very gun focused, it's really nice to have spammable torps, and spammable torps require I would say at minimum 12-kilometer range, which Grozavoy does have, but also this like 90, 100-second reload, because of how long typical smoke screens last. Now, something worth mentioning, we mentioned this in the Z52 video, the Elbing does get Russian smoke. I don't know why. I don't know why the Z is so fucking gimped and that it gets the worst smoke, literally the worst smoke consumable suite in the entire fucking game. That 20 up, 77 dispersion, 160 downtime smoke, right? And like Elbing, we're building for it a bit, right? We are building for it slightly, but Elbing gets the same reload. But then it just gets 20 seconds more smoke time than the Z52. Why? Wargaming? Hello? Nobody really knows, but that's an extra minute, right? With 3 smokes, 97 dispersion as opposed to 77. It's an extra minute of smoke with just 3, right? So, that's kind of tragic. Another tragic thing about the Z, that's improved on the Elbing. And, I didn't probably mention Elbing much in the Z video, I can't really remember, but I'd kind of just rather play the Elbing than the Z52. They don't do it remotely the same thing, okay? Don't get me wrong, this isn't a one-to-one comparison, Elbing Z, but, like, I still like the Z, but, I have a love affair with the Elbing. This is, like, just, this boat is bliss. You're never, it's one of the least frustrating ships in the game. I truly believe that. Why? The dispersion is god tier, so you're never frustrated by RNG. Okay, Ragnar has that in common. The AP is disgusting, so you're never frustrated by any type of target. The HE pen is 38, so you're rarely frustrated by the type of battleship platings. You have a smoke, so you're not frustrated by as much as like other open water gunboats that can't smoke up. You have torps, so you're not frustrated by when you get rushed by a battleship, right? Like you have all of these tools in the Elbing, and other hybrid destroyers or gunboat destroyers do have similar tools, but they don't have this all or nothing gun style. And the Elbing has this like god tier gun, some of just like the best guns of any destroyer and cruiser in the game. I firmly believe that. But then you also get like other things. It's kind of crazy to me. Like when the Elbing was, on release, I feel like it probably did need a couple of buffs, and then they just went too far. But back to the game, a very obnoxious thing is going to happen. I have played very team-oriented with this Jacksonville. I have smoked him up so he can push in and radar the destroyers for us, because the game is lost. I mean, look at this game. We're getting triple capped. Our team is evaporating on the west side. We're about to be down to just the 5 of us on this flank. So what needs to happen? Well, we need to push in very aggressively. We need to kill Gearing. We need to kill Shima. We need to kill Castilla. If we can pick up those 3 kills without losing a ship, then we've got a chance. So I've talked about this, right? In the Yu Yang video ad nauseum, we talked about making the only play. You need enemies to fuck up for you to win, but you also need to play in a way that will let you capitalize. And this Jacksonville and Ruprecht are just going to bait me. They're in reverse. So I am making the only play that could give us a 5-10% chance of winning. But check this out. Boom. Get Elbing, baby. And like we said, Castilla has spaced armor. There is no destroyer in the game that can citadel this guy at 5 kilometers. There just isn't. There's no destroyer but the Elbing that can do this. And here you can see this armor plating. Look at my HP when the Shima shoots me. Basically 0. And I make a mistake. Look at this mistake I made. I died because I slowed down. He's so bad and unknowledgeable about the game that he was shooting my armor belt, and then I slowed down and I let him hit my nose. But yeah, this guy's just back here, like just griefing me, just deliberately, just turbo griefing me. He's choosing to lose to try to farm damage, and he hits a fucking torp with his Hydra on in a Jacksonville. I'm disgusted, dude. I am disgusted by this player base. And you know what? This is not technically stat shaming Wargaming, because this guy has good stats. When I say things like every now and then, people on the Reddit get mad at me that having a high win rate I don't really care about. I care about how you fucking play the goddamn video game. I care about how you play the video game. Griefing your team, your teammate's making the only play. He smoked you up so you could live and get damage and kills. He's making the only fucking play that has a chance. Admittedly, basically no chance. I'm not saying we would win this game, but it's the only play that could win you the fucking game. And he's griefing our team. I want to live longer. Maybe I can farm more damage. Hurt it or go fuck yourself, dude. Okay, anyway, that is the Elbing gameplay. Let's hop back in the port and we can settle down and go over the spec a little bit. Okay, we have settled down. We're at basically hypertension blood level, losing our mind at the way this community plays the game. Even the good players, the way they grief their team. Okay, we're not, equipment. Objectively, the Elbing build, there is. This is the only build. The ledge mod, dude, the ledge mod is retarded. Look at this shit. Give me just the 12% speed boost, and I'm buying the ledge mod. Give me just the main battery reload time without the hit to turret traverse, and I'm like, okay, probably not worth it, but I can see where their head's at. Dude, look at these turrets. 9 seconds. We're not taking grease the gears. 9 fucking seconds on Elbing turrets. And retaining half of reload mod's DPM. It's demented. It is absolutely goddamn demented. Anyway, you do have a DFAA. The AA is like dog shit, but you got one. That's pretty cool. We're not running Superintendent. Let's look at the spec in detail. This is the ledge mod Elbing build because you can be open water for so long. Well over half of your damage is going to come from open water, and because of that, we have Fearless Brawler, and we have this just to keep the speed boost up an extra 16, 17 seconds. I do think, so there's some, like I always go through the objectively correct skills, right? And then we talk about the up in the air skills. This here, follow the cursor, this is objectively correct Elbing build. We don't want concealment. I don't know why people take concealment on the Elbing. It's trying to make it you like. I've talked about this with like Gdansk. Now Gdansk has radar, Elbing doesn't. It's a bit of a different comparison. But if you have to fight someone at 6'5", your lowest conceal you can get, like you're done, dude. I mean, it's over with. You want to farm at range to start. The playstyle is identical to Ragnar. You just get a smoke, you get torps, and you get amazing AP and good HE pen. Other than that, like I said with Ragnar, kind of stands. You farm damage at range, and then medium late game, you can push into counter destroyers, like you saw in that first replay and the second replay. You farm, you farm, you farm, and then when there's not a lot of focus fire, because you're fast, right? You're very fast with this B boost up. You go, what's 20% of 38? Um, you go something like 46-ish knots with the speed boost up. So you kind of can push it, even with 7-2 conceal, which is what we're running. As long as there's not focus fire to take you down, you can push into DD's late game, right? So you don't need turret traverse because the turrets are super fast. Hold Elbing, this is a mandatory skill over preventative maintenance. Elbing with ledge mod, there's no reason you take PM. Objectively correct. The range, like not taking range on Elbing is insane. So then basically what you end up with is you end up with 8 points. You can spend half of those points on concealment, which I just think doesn't make any sense no matter how you play Elbing. If you want to open water gunboat, it doesn't make sense. If you want to grab superintendent to smoke farm, then it doesn't make sense either. And 10% plus 7.5, this is 17.5% DPM. And then with the ledge mod kicking in another 6%, right? So we're kind of giving ourselves 22% DPM boost for AP and then like 15% for HE. So really, what I think ledge mod Elbing, these are all objectively correct. I think these 4 skills, this would be the debate. Would you grab superintendent and consumable specialist instead of AP and consumables enhancements? Because superintendent gives you an extra 2 minutes in smoke, an extra 3 minutes of speed boost, right? Probably makes you more resilient to bad situations, bad teams, lets you farm more safely, right, from the smoke. So basically, like, you can give up 7% AP DPM. And I do say AP DPM because, like, there's this idea that you only shoot AP in Elbing, which is, like, objectively wrong. I mean, the HE is so good, it pens, like, every non-ridiculously armored, all the US, French, British battleships get penned by this. Every cruiser, even like American super heavy style cruisers like Puerto Rico you pen, Rhode Island you pen, right? There's a bunch of weird ships like you pen Marseille deck with the HE. You pen you pen Riga and Novosibirsk side plating. It's a weird thing to throw out there, but you do. Like you use the HE a lot in Elbing. You should be. It's crazy to not give up like 3 salvos in the Elbing is kind of like a guaranteed fire, right? Because you have a 12% chance for fire per shell hit. You're gonna hit all 6, so you hit 18 shells on people. Like on average, you get a fire every 3 salvos. So not starting fires in Elbing is clinically insane behavior. We do try to start fires, especially if they're nose in. So this is really only coming in handy like half of, maybe 2/3. I would say 2-1, I'm shooting AP versus HE in the Elbing. So for 2/3 of our damage output, we're getting 7.5% buff, right? So it's like debatable. This is greed, right? I'm admitting this is just full greed. We could go even more greed by dropping survivability for BFT, but that's dumb as fuck. So that's kind of the philosophy with the build. Now back to the armor. 2 things are going to stand out. Like I already mentioned the armor plating, but also look at the turrets. These turrets are just tanks. You just do not get turrets knocked by destroyers in this thing. But this is what I mean. Look at the amount. Let's hide this. Look at the amount. Okay, fuck you, game. Let's look at the amount of real estate. Like, as a destroyer player, let's say, number 1, most destroyer players just spam HE at you anyway because they don't know better. Number 2, like, especially kiting, you can just angle like this in the Elbing. Like no destroyer aside from like daring and druid AP is gonna really pen you here. So like the ass is non-existent. Basically the freeboard, like if a rubber ducky were to sail behind this ship, water would wash up on the deck and everyone would get pneumonia and die 2 weeks later. So that's pretty cool. But like you can't aim for this. Like aiming for this in destroyer AP or HE would be like retarded. So the nose is kind of big. So basically you've got the nose, but even the superstructure. Like I want you to take a visual screenshot in your mind of Elbing, and then we're gonna look at Ragnar. Way less of the ship is protected by this plate. Let's go to Kaba. Way less of the ship is protected by the plating. Right? This is what I mean. Like Elbing having 35-ish K to Ragnar's with heals 45-ish K is bait. One, even solely playing open water, Elbing dodges more shells throughout the game because it's faster for longer. Two, Elbing has like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna estimate this to be like a solid probably 60% of the ship's real estate is taken up by this plate. Ragnar, it's like 40%. Kaba, it's probably 35, 40%. Delny, it's like more like 30, 35%, right? Um, you're just incredibly tanky. You're uniquely tanky against Destroyer HE, even compared to the other armored destroyers. You are. Um, so the health is misleading. Effectively, to me, the Elbing and the Ragnar feel like they have similar HP. Again, because Ragnar, you have to farm open water. Yes, you have more HE DPM, but you don't have the HE pen. You don't have anywhere close to the AP. Like anything showing you 20 degrees in the Elbing, you just shoot AP at it. Like you just save the AP for perfectly nose-in targets or ships you know you're gonna pen everywhere and get fires on, right? Um, it's incredibly tanky against other destroyers, against ultralight cruisers too. That's what's like. That's why it's real, dude. You want to know how much destroyer, how much wargaming hates. You want to know who wargaming has two children, and one is ultralight cruisers, and the other is gunboats. You want to know how much they hate ultralight cruiser players? Fight the Elbing in a GNAN, and you tell me how that engagement goes for you. I'll tell you how it goes for you. You lose it 1,000 out of 1,000% of the time if you're both equally skilled. And it's a true 1v1. Like, this thing just will destroy you. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, it's disgusting what the AP does. To really any cruiser with kind of like this is the mental math. Heavy cruiser with spaced armor, so we're talking Petro, Castilla, Henry, these kinds of cruisers. Um, Realistically, like 6 kilometers, you're starting to get very consistent citadels on them. Heavy cruisers with exposed plating, like Des Moines, Moskva, flat broadside, it's like basically max range, like 15, 16. Slight angle, 10 kilometers. And then these ultralights, like GNAM Minnow, it's like, brother, you can play range mod Elbing. We didn't even talk about this. I've at times dabbled in range mod Elbing. You literally Citadel Minotaur at 18 kilometers in this thing. Like it's ridiculous. Don't do that, but it is a thing. Yeah, the ship has so much going for it. It's kind of I think it's legitimately overtuned, borderline too strong. Um, the ledge mod put it way over the top. I think the Elbing was enjoyable, interesting, and fun and decent in its original state. I think when they gave it the speed boost, it became good, not just situational. It became like very good. And then they gave it the ledge mod, and it's like, dude, part of why I don't play Ragnar is I have the Elbing. Like the radar is cope, right? Ragnar's a great ship. I'm also not that great in the Ragnar. Skill issue, probably. But man, the Elbing is fun. Way more fun than Ragnar for me. And I just do better in it solo even. Yeah, the Yap session is over. That is the Elbing 100% aligned with real quick, real quick. I keep forgetting to do this. The Schultz is also good. I thought the tier 9 version of Elbing was quite good. But going from the tier 9, the Schultz, to the Elbing feels like going from North Carolina straight to Montana. It feels like going from the Hawk straight to Vincent, right? Like the Elbing with Ledge mod feels like a super ship. You play the Schultz, and you're like, I kind of like this ship. This ship could do well. You play the Elbing, the new 2024 version of Elbing, and you're like, this is a very solid tier 10. And then you slap the ledge mod on it, and you're like, oh, this is everything I wanted in the Elbing. And I now have it, right? Okay, we are done yapping. That is it for the Elbing. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.